As welcome everybody to the Harrisburg Bike Club meeting. You can probably tell I'm not Susan Tussey, your president. I'm the past president of the Harrisburg Bike Club. Glenn Wareham, for you new members that don't know me. Susan's out of town. She'll be back this week. So I'm going to take a few minutes and I'm going to pass along a few things to everybody, and then we'll get into the meat of the meeting. First, I want to thank all the members for your support over the last year through all this trying times that we've been through. Let me also say thank you to the people that make this happen. Larry Wasser from the website, he's the website guru, and especially Scott Silverstein for his long hours and dedication to making these productions. It takes a lot of work and he puts a lot of time in. We will be talking about other videos this evening, and that'll be discussed with Dick Norford. I'm not sure how many members are logged in, needless to say, because I can't see that. But once again, welcome, and I want to especially welcome any new members that we have out there. Thank you for joining in, and we will soon, hopefully, meet each other on a ride somewhere. I'm getting so. Okay. This, of course, is our second virtual meeting at the club, and I think we do have a great meeting in store for you. We have a little history, some maintenance, and of course some news. First thing on the agenda is the Spring Fling. Currently, we have 52 members that have signed up, and we are getting very close to the amount of rooms that we reserved being filled. I think we got like 10 rooms left. I'll be traveling to Bethany here this week or next week, and I'll be checking out some of the routes and, of course, setting up the social functions. For those who don't know, we stay at the Ocean Suites by Marriott, and it sits right on the boardwalk. Breakfast is included. And if you're interested in going, go to the HBC website and click on Spring Fling, and the link will book. There'll be a link there that you can book directly to the hotel. Remember the dates of the 29th of April to the 2nd of May. We've had some difficulties. Some people tried to log in on the 28th and there's no rooms available. So make sure you put the right dates in there. Spring Fling offers all different level of riders. I mean, we have all different distances. Doesn't matter what your level is, you're welcome. It's just a great trip. It's a great start to the riding season, especially for us that don't ride through the winter months. Bethany, if you haven't been there before, has very wide bike lanes and flat terrain. I'll be sending out all the routes and the cue sheets and the schedule at the end of March. March 30th is the cutoff date for the rooms at the discounted rate. So all we really need for this to go off really well is, of course, is a little sunshine, and we've always had that. So hopefully that'll hold true this year. Another event that we got coming up is September 21st to the 24th. September 20th. It is another great trip to Cape May from Harrisburg, which we call the Fall Tour for those people that don't know. We start in Harrisburg on the 21st and pull into Cape May on the 24th of September. All the hotels have already been booked for the ride down and booked for the weekend at the Grand Hotel. And the Grand Hotel, of course, extends that to the 24th and the 26th of the month. One of the nice features on this ride is that you can choose where you want to join us. You can start in Harrisburg. You can meet up with us in Ronks. There's different locations that you can meet up for however many days that you want to join. Excuse me. The other option, of course, is you can just drive to Cape May and ride with the bike club if that's something that you would like to do. Most of the additional information you'll find about that is on the website, and the registration for this event will come out later in the spring. Next thing I'd like to talk to you about is an event that the Whitaker Center is putting on July 18th. They're holding their first event, and it's geared towards family. There will be a registration fee for this. However, and the reason why I bring it up to the members, we will need members to help the Whitaker Center raise some money and at the same time do some rides with some young kids. I don't have all the details on it yet. We had our first committee meeting the other day. The kids are going to do a 5-mile trip. We're working on that route right now. I think it's just a great way to give back to the community. So I'll be reaching out to all the members who might be interested in volunteering for that event sometime probably in April or May. That's all I got at this point, and I'm going to turn this over to Phyllis Zitzer.
Hey, everybody. So, can you hear me? I'm hearing there's an echo. I hope don't have an echo. So I'm the chairman of the Finger Lakes trip, which Susan Tussey and I kind of decided to take over after Marilyn Chasik did such a phenomenal job for so many years. And unfortunately, we weren't able to go last year because of COVID. But the last time we went was 2019, and everybody, we can have up to 100 people, and it's always the second weekend in June, and we stay in the college townhouses. They're not even dorms. They're wonderful, and they are, okay, I'm seeing notes from some people that they still can't hear, that there's an echo, but I'm just going to keep talking. So we haven't been able to open up. I'm trying to get the private chat message out of the way. We haven't been able to open up registration yet as early as we had hoped because the college staff was not able to give us a contract yet because of COVID restrictions in New York for groups of up to 100 people. But I have heard from them recently, and we are working on finalizing, it's basically the meal costs for breakfast and possibly a group dinner at the college. And I'm hoping we can finalize that very soon. And when we can open registration up, it will be online on the HBC website. If you have not done this trip before, if you go to the HBC website and look at the special events links, you'll see Finger Lakes. And we have updated the homepage, which gives you the dates for this year, which are the weekend of June 10th or 13th, but the college has always allowed us, for those that want to come Tuesday or Wednesday night early, and they only charge us for the nominal charge of staying in the townhouses, and the room cost per person, and they only charge us for what we use. So last year was $41, and this year it's $41.25, $1.25 increase. So, I don't know where else you can stay in the Finger Lakes for what we can provide this kind of lodging and this wonderful event for, which is why it's such a popular trip. So the dates, again, if you haven't marked them down, we have saved the dates in the spokesman, on the website, and on the Finger Lakes special tab. It is the official Thursday through Sunday dates are Thursday the 10th, 11th, 12th, leaving on Sunday the 13th. But if you want to come early on a Tuesday and Wednesday, June 8th and 9th, you can, for the nominal charge of your lodging per night. You're kind of on your own. We don't provide meals or bike rides then, but it's such a wonderful place to go biking. There's so much to do in the Finger Lakes. Even 5 nights is never enough. So if you're new to this, my suggestion is go to the Finger Lakes, the special events tab on the Finger Lakes trip, And you'll see the dates and just a very preliminary information saying we're still working on the registration costs, which is the only reason we can't open up registration yet, but we're getting close. And it'll give you the dates. And then if you haven't done this trip before, if you forget the details, all the tabs on the left side are the 2020 information. And even though we didn't go, it gives you an idea of what to expect, the schedule, what to do in the area, kind of logistical things. And we will be updating that as soon as we have the details. The college is not, as I said, the college, we stay at Hobart William Smith. They're townhouses. They have full kitchens, refrigerators, although nothing is provided. We can't go to the Finger Lakes any sooner because we wait till the college students are gone and they clean the townhouses and then we can use them. But they're wonderful. There's 4 or 5 in a unit. When you register, you can indicate who you want to share a townhouse with, which we're going to be paying special attention to this year. Although I know I've had my 2 vaccinations. I don't know about anybody else, but we're hoping by June it's less of an issue than it currently has been. But one of the concerns was like group meals, even breakfast, and possibly a group dinner on Friday night. And so I've been working with the college and the catering staff to figure out, do we have a better option than the kind of breakfast we've had in the barn? And what they suggested, which actually even costs less, is they have a dining hall that's an 8-minute walk. And it's a quick bike ride too. It's a little bit across campus, but it's not far. And so they're going to offer a hot breakfast and kind of the same things we've had before, but more options for less money. And it's all COVID compliant. And that was my concern. Because I didn't see how we could do this without a breakfast and possibly a group dinner. I'm waiting to hear from the catering staff about menus for an optional group dinner on Friday night. In the past, we've gone to restaurants downtown. There are so many wonderful places. If we make a Friday night dinner optional, you can decide what you want to do on your own or not. But there is a private room in the dining hall and they will accommodate us. So those are the only reasons we haven't yet been able to start registration. As soon as I have those details worked out, I will be able to finalize the budget. And I need to do a budget because we don't charge you any more than our total cost because this is not a profit-making enterprise. And it's going to be $5 to $8 more than it was in the past. So I've got my registration in front of me. And, I paid $158 for the weekend last year. And then, I came early. So it was $41 a night for another $82. And then it was an optional dinner. So it's still, you can't stay anywhere else in the Finger Lakes for the price of what we charge. We just want to make sure everything is COVID compliant because we don't want to have to cancel it. And like I said, the college isn't even issuing contracts yet, but they've been in touch and they've been very responsive and they know we've been coming for a long time, thanks to Marilyn Chastik. So I think everything looks really good. We are going to do registration online on the HBC website. And as soon as we can't open registration up till we know what it's going to cost. So that's the issue because we don't want to overcharge you or undercharge you or, deal with, over collecting $5 and that kind of stuff. So, but everything is really good. The college has been wonderfully responsive. I'm just having a hard time getting answers from the caterers, particularly about a possible Friday night dinner and what the menu options would be. So, and that will be optional. So you don't have to have a group Friday night dinner in the dining hall if you want to do something on your own or go out on your own. So somebody's saying the echoes on my end. There's nothing I can do. So I'm basically done. And if anybody has any questions, Scott was going to put my contact information on the bottom, and I don't see it, but my contact information is on the HBC website under the Finger Lakes tab. We're just excited that it looks like this trip is really going to happen. We're just waiting to finalize the details so we can start registration. That's it, unless anybody has any questions. Okay, who's next? Hello?
Hey, Chris, you're on. We can't hear you.
Okay, let me do a sound check. Scott, can you hear me and see me now?
Sound. If everyone can hear Chris, say something in the chat. Okay.
Well, we don't need everyone, but it would be good to hear from someone.
All 150 eyeballs come into the chat. We want your chat. Okay. So
Okay,
go ahead,
good.
Chris. Go
Scott,
ahead.
Thank you, Scott. Could you please pull up the slides that we're going to do? And while Scott's doing that, let me say hello. My name is Chris Wright. I'm the ride coordinator, or the chairperson of the ride committee for the bike club. And a little bit of intro before we actually get into the topic here. We recognize that this takes a little bit of patience with the technology. I will tell you that it's not from lack of effort. Scott and I were on the phone today for over 2 hours just trying to resolve one minor issue on how we could present this material. Restream and Google and Microsoft don't always play well together, so we're working through that. We do appreciate your tolerance for that, so thank you very much. Scott, you can just go to presenter view or whatever you want to go to there. So e-bikes, this was put on the agenda as e-bike issues. That's kind of a spoiler alert, I suppose. The e-bike situation is a bit fluid, and what's happened is we've had several folks come forward from the club and ask questions about e-bikes, about the situation with them, about insurance provisions, things like that. So I've spent the past couple of weeks digging into this, and what I wanted to present tonight was really more of an update than anything else. So we've done some research. I've got maybe 10 slides to present. What I would ask is if you have questions on a topic as I go through it, just put it into the chat window and I can see it. I'll pick it up as soon as you put it in there. And then we will also have a bit of a Q&A time at the end of the meeting the end of this presentation to talk about e-bikes or whatever else you want to talk about as far as rides. So Scott, thank you very much. I would normally not put a slide like this in a presentation, but it's true. We don't have all the answers when it comes to e-bikes. This is a bit of a challenging situation. It's very fluid. And I think in some cases, some countries and perhaps some states are far ahead of others, and some are lagging behind. And we're kind of in the second category, we being the state of Pennsylvania. So I'm going to kind of explain that and let you know kind of where we're at now. Next slide, please, Scott. A little bit of information on e-bikes. The popularity is really going off the charts, if you will. In fact, Scott, we lost the second slide, but I'll talk through it. Thank you. In fact, the numbers in terms of sales of e-bikes have increased so fast that the numbers on the bottom left-hand side of the screen are really just estimates. I really couldn't even find an accurate number for 2020 sales of e-bikes. I saw estimates somewhere between 400,000 and 1 million, and that's just in the United States alone. The 600,000 number was about the best guess that I saw, but clearly e-bike sales have increased dramatically, and they are planned to increase even more dramatically than what we've seen. They're here to stay. We're glad they're here to stay because they encourage people to ride. So it's our role now to figure out how to work with that. Next slide, please, Scott. There are several groups that kind of have their hands in the pie here in terms of the regulation of e-bikes. On the federal level, it's the Consumer Product Safety Commission. That's something that's been in place for a long time. There are state laws, and believe me, there are lots of different state laws. Certain cities and local townships have their own sets of ordinances, and then the insurance providers also come into play. They have their own view of things. So it's one of those things where the more layers of the onion you peel back, the more you find that it's not as easy as you would like it to be. Go to the next slide, Scott. But generally speaking, the good news is this is where the e-bike industry and regulations are going. And I apologize if the font and things on the slide are goofed up. This was kind of a going between PowerPoint and a Mac platform, but the content is the same. Where they're moving towards is what is called the three-class model, and you'll hear me refer to that term repeatedly. The three-class model is fairly simple. Class 1 are e-bikes that are pedal assist, meaning you only get assistance when you pedal. They do not have a mode where you can just push a throttle button and it goes on its own without you pedaling. They are pedal assist, and for Class 1, that assistance will be there up until 20 miles an hour. Once the bike goes past 20 miles an hour, the assistance drops off. That doesn't mean the bike stops moving at 20 miles an hour. You can certainly pedal and go down a hill faster than 20 miles an hour. It just means the assistance stops at 20 miles an hour. Class 2 e-bikes are what you and I might call a motor scooter. They are throttle assist, meaning they have a throttle or a button or a lever that you can push to make the bike go. You don't have to pedal at all. Most of them have pedals on them, but generally speaking, it's the throttle that makes the bike go. That assistance also ceases at 20 miles an hour. Again, if you're taking that e-bike down a hill, it would certainly go faster than 20, but the assistance cuts out at 20 miles per hour. And then the newest level of e-bike are Class 3 e-bikes. The simplest way for me to describe those is they are Class 1 bikes that go faster. They are pedal assist, just like Class 1. There's no throttle only mode. And in these, the assistance cuts out at 28 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour faster than Class 1. Someone had asked me why 28. Did someone pull that number out of the air? 28 miles an hour is the equivalent of 45 kilometers per hour. These classes, the European countries are farther ahead than North America when it comes to e-bikes. So the 28 is really just 48 kilometers per hour converted. That's the three-class model, and it's kind of something to keep in mind as we go forward. Go ahead, Scott. So, Scott, you can go to the next slide, please. Scott, you can go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, I'm having can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm having a technical issue. It's not advancing. So, let me see.
Okay, then here's what Scott, can I just turn my, let me see if this will work. I anticipated the potential for this to happen.
Yeah, that works.
Can you see that? Okay, yeah. So we're going to try most eloquent of solutions. It's really one monitor looking at the other, but we'll work with that. You mentioned. Remember, I mentioned that. Okay. Remember, I mentioned that some states are ahead of others. This is that picture, if you will. What you see are. Make sure I get that on the screen. There are about 28 states in green that have adopted that three-class model, in which Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 exist. And they, generally speaking, have regulations and rules that use that model. It's pretty standard. If you look at the state laws across all of those green states, they are very much the same. And if you read the print over here, what you find is that there's an organization called People for Bikes that has kind of been the advocacy group that has defined the three classes, and this is what you're seeing get adopted. The states in yellow, of which Pennsylvania is one, have not adopted the three-class model, not because they necessarily disagree with it, it's just they haven't adopted it yet, and I'll get to that in a second. And then the states in red, such as Alaska and others, are states that they're still thinking that something that has an electric motor on it must be a motor scooter and not a bicycle. So they're quite a bit behind. Next slide, please, Scott. Or if you want, I'll just go on my end. Okay. What you're seeing here is Pennsylvania's current bike law. I realize this is small print, so there's no need for you to read it. What I'll do is zero in on that top left paragraph. I'm getting a message that we may have lost the feed. Could I get confirmation from someone out there other than Scott that you can see what's on the screen right now that says Pennsylvania's e-bike law? Okay, Mr. Wonderful tells me he can see it. Okay, thank you very much for that confirmation, folks. Let me get rid of the messaging. So again, going back to Pennsylvania's current e-bike law, and I will read from that top left paragraph. It says, e-bikes are defined as pedal cycles with electric assist, so long as the e-bike's motor is under 750 watts, has a maximum speed of 20 miles an hour on a level surface, when powered by the motor source only, weighs no more than 100 pounds, and has operable pedals. The same rules of the road apply to both e-bikes and human-powered bicycles. So let me take that thought, that current Pennsylvania law, and ask you, what does that cover? Is that the definition of a Class 1 e-bike or a Class 2 e-bike? Because technically, both Classes 1 and 2 would fit within that definition. Maximum speed of 20 miles an hour when powered by the motor source only. It's confusing. I can't give you the specific answer. I would tend to think that it says it's covering Class 1 bikes only, but here's the key point. This law has been in existence since there was a modification to Act 74, 75 years ago. It doesn't even acknowledge that there are 3 classes of bikes. That's how old this law is. So where does that leave us? Again, the current definition might cover Class 1 bikes. It might cover Class 2 bikes. It's not very clear. It certainly doesn't leave it very clear in terms of where Class 2 and 3 bikes are at. So last year in June, in the House of Representatives in Pennsylvania, House Bill 2646 was introduced, and it brought forth the 3-class model, the very same one that you saw 28 green states have already adopted. That bill was introduced. It was tabled sometime in September 2020. And if you know anything about legislative processes, when it's tabled, that means it sits there. And if nothing happens to it, such as it being brought forward to the next year, if nothing happens to it, all bills that have been tabled die at the end of the general session at the end of the year. So as of December 31st, 2020, that bill died, and it is not currently in existence. We're hopeful that it's going to get introduced again this year, but we haven't yet seen whether any legislators have put this on their docket for introduction. So here's our current situation. This kind of tries to sum all of it up, if you will. Apologies for them trying to get this to be readable by you folks. We have insurance through the League of American Bicyclists. That insurance says that it covers, quote, low-speed electric bicycles. That's the term that it uses. It doesn't use any terminology that you've already heard me refer to as far as the weight of the bike, the speed of the bike, the watts of the bike, anything else. All it says is low-speed electric bicycles as defined by the Consumer Product Safety Commission. So then we went to the Consumer Product Safety Commission and said, okay, how do you define low-speed electric bicycles? What they say are those that are bicycles that can go no faster than 20 miles per hour under motor power alone. You'll remember that language from the Pennsylvania current law. However, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, let me get that out of the way, also says this. They say, we are the agency that is tasked with regulating the manufacture and sale of consumer products, including e-bikes. We are not the agency that regulates the usage of consumer products. In fact, their stance as an agency explicitly says that that power to regulate the usage of consumer products rests with the states. So if you think of it in terms of progression here, the League of American Bicyclists punted their definition down the road to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. The Consumer Product Safety Commission then punts the definition to the states. So the power and authority here, if you will, resides with the state of Pennsylvania to define what e-bikes are and if there are classes. And that's why the bottom line of this slide says what it says. What we really need to have happen here is for Pennsylvania to update its e-bike definition and hopefully go to that 3-class model. And when you see that happen, we believe what you'll see happen is the insurance companies and the local and city ordinances will all fall in line with that. One of the things that we've seen in our research is that many states have said that Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes are permitted on bike trails, paths, things like that. But Class 3, which are the 28-mile-an-hour e-bikes, are only permitted on the roads. Many states are kind of adopting that model. I can't tell you whether Pennsylvania would or would not. I'm just saying that's the most common outcome. So I didn't want to just end this slide on bad news. So I wanted to let you know what we're doing about it. We are looking at the current policy we have with the League of American Bicyclists and asking them, now I'm just going to be honest, pushing them to say, hey, you need to update your language. You need to do something about this because your language is woefully out of date. We need to know what this current policy covers. And we also need to understand, what if we wanted Class 2 and Class 3 e-bikes to be in the coverage? What does that mean? Is it in the standard coverage? Is there a rider that we might need to look at? We need to understand what that is. We're also obviously monitoring Pennsylvania legislation on e-bikes, seeing what's going to happen there. Someone just put in the comments that we need to push our legislators. I absolutely agree with that. And we've been doing a fair amount of benchmarking of other bike clubs, both inside Pennsylvania and elsewhere. I've been talking to folks from Baltimore's Bike Club for lots of different reasons over the past 2 months, and we're trying to understand how they're dealing with it, because Maryland is one of the states that is green, if you will. They've already adopted the 3-class model. I put the last line of the presentation on there because I think it's important. Our goal as an organization is to promote and encourage safe and enjoyable cycling. That's our goal. If it were up to me, I'd be having lots and lots of e-bikes on rides, and we'd all be out there riding our bicycles because that's what we want to do. We need to work through some challenges here. I'm hoping the state of Pennsylvania gets their act together as well. And our goal is to kind of keep on top of this and see where we can take it so we can get more people riding. So with that, I'm going to turn my computer away from that monitor and back to, unfortunately, you get to look at me.
So let me ask, is Dick Norford in the house? Is Dick Norford in the house? Dick, can you hear me?
Scott, I'm here.
Okay, we were looking for you, okay? I was concerned that you skipped out or something, but this is your section, Spotlights.
Well, I don't know who can hear what, so let me do the same thing Chris did. Can anyone that can hear me just send me a message and say I can hear you? Or well, Scott, I don't know if I'm online or what's going on, but I'll start and then you can tell me. Anyway, since we haven't been meeting, Scott has come up with a series of really interesting videos, short, quick videos to keep us in touch with our members. If you have been in the Harrisburg Bicycle Club for a little while, some of this will be repetitive, but we do have an awful lot of new members. So Scott's calling it spotlights. So we've started over the last several weeks selecting people that have interesting stories and interesting things to share with our members. And we decided to start with people that had been in the organization for a long time, that have stories before most of us joined. So our first spotlight, assuming that technically Scott can get this up and going, we had a member reach out to us that joined the club almost at the very beginning, which was in 1961. Gentleman's name is Gabriel Stasnik. Mr. Stasnik escaped from what later became Yugoslavia, ended up in Italy, and from there came to Harrisburg and spent his career. He's now 75 years old. He's a tailor, and he works in Susquehanna Township. So he raced with our club as a young man. One of the things that I found interesting in the story. Well, Scott, why don't you run the video of Mr. Gabriel Stasnik? I'm assuming you're going to come back to me before you do the second video, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the videotape. While we're waiting for Scott, we interviewed this gentleman at his home office, which is his tailor shop. Scott bought 2 suits and a necktie while we were there, which I thought was interesting. He has some posters. The last race that he performed in was in the 1972, when the bike club still did races, and it was in conjunction with Capona. He had another poster of a Century ride. Scott, are you bringing us up, or where are we?
Yeah.
Again, as Scott is working on.
Dick,
Yep.
give me a few more minutes here because
Okay.
I had his feed set up and I lost it. Now I can only find Bill Pickering's comments.
Okay.
So
You want me to introduce Bill Pickering? Okay.
Well,
Okay.
keep talking, but talk about Bill Pickering because he may come in first.
Okay, so the second person that we decided to interview was Bill Pickering, and Bill Pickering. Most of you know. If you don't, Bill has been very active in our club, very active as the chairman of the fall tour. When I first met Bill, he was the ride coordinator for the Silver Spokes ride, and Bill was one of the first people. Chris, you'll find this interesting. Bill was one of the very first people in our club to get an e-bike. One thing you didn't mention about e-bikes is e-bikes will extend your riding life. If you were going to stop riding at age 85, this will extend your, according to people for bikes, it will extend your riding life by 15 years. So Bill is now in his early 80s and still rides regularly. I understand he rode today with maybe not a bike club ride, but with a group of bike club members. So we met with Bill virtually, and he shared some really fantastic stories with us. Scott told us to do the interview and hold it down to about 15 minutes, and we finally got Bill to stop talking at about 30 minutes. And I understand, Scott, that you have edited his video of that interview to less than 10 minutes. So
we're ready to go. We're ready to play Gabe's.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go before everybody starts going to bed, Scott.
HBC Spotlight. But today, Dick Norford's GPS took him in reverse, and he, Susan Tussey, and myself, we had an opportunity to visit Gabe, who was a cyclist in the early years of the Harrisburg Bicycle Club. And I'm talking back in the 1960s, early 1960s. So let's roll them.
We're here in Gabe Stasnik's tailor shop in Susquehanna Township
Came to the United States in 1960.
in 1960. Okay.
That's correct.
Did you ride a bicycle in Croatia before you came to Harrisburg? or-
No, I did not. No.
So when did you start bicycle riding?
I would say I think within a year that I was in the United States, a neighbor taught me how to ride
Okay,
a bicycle.
so 1961.
Correct.
Okay, so how did you happen to meet back in those days the Harrisburg Bicycle Club, which we now know was formed in 1963, and there were, in the original bicycle club, there were 9 members. There were 3 adults and 6 children. Okay, so you joined sometime pretty close after that.
Very close after that. Yes.
Okay. So how did you happen to, and you were managing David's downtown at that time?
Clothing store. Yeah, my profession is tailor. Yes.
Okay, so you were you managed a men's clothing store, tailor shop, next to the old William Penn Hotel.
That's correct.
Okay. So how did you happen to get interested in bicycle riding and the Harrisburg Bicycle Club at that point?
Well, first I enjoyed riding a bike when I learned it, but then I heard of this gentleman Bulatovic. Now, his name was last name Bulatovic. He is on the list of the original,
Okay,
members.
original members. Okay.
And he is from same country I came from. And then I met him. He owned the, I think it was up on Third, way up on Third, the auto repair shop, something like that. So that I talked to him. Interesting thing about him, he was I think Tour de France or something like
The
that.
Tour de France. Okay.
Yeah, he was in those and so forth. And he escaped from Yugoslavia at that time, just like we did. We went with the boat, but he escaped with a bicycle.
With a bicycle. Okay.
Yeah, across.
All right.
And through that conversation, I joined the club.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm holding the sign of Bike to Work Week, which was the 3rd week of May in 1971.
Yes.
You know, some things haven't changed. We still do Bike to Work Week the 3rd week of May.
No, that's interesting.
Yep. And Bike to Work Day is normally the Friday of that week. As a matter of fact, this year in years gone by, we don't know what we'll do this year because we don't know with the pandemic, but we frequently will do an executive ride around the Capitol, where we'll have a few elected officials come out and PennDOT is there. And so, Gabe, I'm holding this. We don't do any bicycle races anymore. We're a social club, and our rides are social. Some of our members do go off and participate in races. I no longer race. That's long since gone. But this was sponsored by the Harrisburg Bicycle Club in part. It says Eastern States Championships. I noticed that it's September the 4th, 1966, and it was a part of Capona. So bicycle races, I know now they no longer, they used to do canoe races on the river, and this was like the end of summer. So there was a bicycle event that was the end of summer, a part of Capona. Is that so?
That's
Did you
correct.
participate in any of the races?
In,
or
in this one I did.
you participated in this one?
Yes.
So were you first, second, third, or
Well-
overall winner? Or
Well, let me brag about myself. I think aside of Bulatovic, who was a professional bike racer, I was, a little younger, strong, came from Europe, so I was rather good in athleticism. And I had this Astra, this French bike, and then on the starting point, I left everybody in the dust. I mean, I was halfway gone, feeling good, showing off. I make a turn from 3rd Street up to Walnut Street, and there was that hotel right in front, and it was after the rain. The puddle was covered with water. I didn't see my front wheel hit that, flipped over, bent my front. That was the end of that race. So I was last.
So, Gabe, the first ride that I ever did as a part of a group was 150 miles. It took 2 days. It took 2 days to do it. We did 75 miles. It was one of the early MS 150 rides. But you told Susan when we were arranging this meeting that you used to do a century ride. Now they do centuries, they call them metric centuries, which is 62 miles. But I understand you did the full 100 miles.
But it was a special event, and we rode around here Gettysburg, then went on the Gettysburg battlefield, so forth, and went back to fill out 100 miles. And what happened to me personally is when I was on Mulberry Street Bridge, because all this riding and muscles, all of a sudden my feet just froze, like, you know, I couldn't move my knee, I couldn't bend, and barely enough to get off the bike. And then I was walking with a bike with my feet totally straight, and I was so embarrassed. Cars were going looking at me. I was walking like a soldier with a thing and pushing the bike, and so that was.
Hey, Dick, let me ask you a question. How do you end an interview like this that you don't want to end?
So, Scott, you know, that's a really good question. But I think the best way to end this interview would be for you to reach in that big fat wallet of yours, take out a nice crisp $100 bill and hand it to me, and I'll shut up and go home.
I'll tell you, that's a bargain. It's cheaper than me.
So, Dick, we have a question here from the floor. I'm pretty sure Al Brullo was compelled to ask this after he watched the interview about Gabe racing. Maybe you can address this.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Al Brullo as the chairman of the new race committee. Now, Al, I don't know if I don't know if you're right or not, but that's probably something that we should look at. Bicycle racing with a lot of people out. So yes, let's talk about that. Maybe not tonight.
Maybe Howard could be in it too. That's Howard Ross. He likes to go fast. So let me pull up the next chair here.
While you're pulling up the other chair, one of the questions we have to answer, Al, and anyone else that's listening, if Howard Davidson is on, I know he'll know this, is one of the questions we have to answer is do you sponsor races? So I think our insurance might change. So Susan and the rest of the board may have a problem with paying more insurance. Go ahead, Scott. Sorry. Scott, we got dead air. Audio.
I'm uh, I'm gonna.
So while Scott's trying to figure this out, I'm assuming everyone can hear me. Susan and I interviewed Bill virtually, um, and it was a most interesting interview. Bill has hundreds of stories to share about the Harrisburg Bicycle Club. One of the questions that we asked Bill in the interview, which hopefully we'll see shortly, was what's the most important aspect of your and Bill doesn't remember exactly when he joined the Harrisburg Bicycle Club. we think it was in the very late 1960s or the early 1970s. Mark Reardon could answer that for us. But Bill says that the most important thing about the Harrisburg Bicycle Club and what sets it aside from other organizations are the people and the stories that have developed through the years, some good and some bad. A lot of them rally around just the rides that we do every week. A lot of them rally around things like Finger Lakes and Spring Fling and the trip that we used to go from Harrisburg to Harrisonburg, and the of course the fall tour. Scott, how we doing, buddy?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Can you all hear me?
Scott, I can hear you fine. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah. You want to replay Pickering's interview? It's a
Yes.
3-minute interview, and I got it here. Okay.
Well, let it go. Let it go before everybody goes to bed. You've
Yeah,
got two.
okay.
You got the highlight of the evening coming up with Ross and Dave. I can't wait to challenge everything they say.
Let me.
I'm hoping you cut out the part of Pickering's interview about e-bikes, because Chris kind of put that to shame tonight. Thank you, Chris. That was great. Well, just so we don't have a lot of dead air here, and we're waiting for
Now, for those new members,
Scott to bring this video up.
if you don't know what the Cape May brick can you hear this now?
We can hear you.
All right, hold on.
For those of you that signed up for Saturday's cleanup on Industrial Road, if you've got something you can use as a grabber to pick up trash, bring it. Wear yellow clothes or your Harrisburg Bicycle Club vest. I will be at the entrance to Wildwood, the main entrance, probably about 9:15 or 9:30. He officially wanted us to start at 10, but let's start a little bit earlier.
Watch this one.
One of the cornerstones of our banquet every year is who wins the after fall tour or the Cape May Brick Award. I know that I left it on my mantle one year for the whole year, scared that you were going to show up one day to see if it was there. So tell us about the brick. How did the Cape May Brick become a part of the lore of the Harrisburg
Okay, well,
Bicycle Club?
this is a story, and there were kids that went with us, some younger people, kids that just cut school and came. My son was one of them, and we went out to Fort Delaware. That was pretty much on the route that we did each year, and so we took the boat and went out to Fort Delaware. And as we were leaving Fort Delaware, the kids walked past a pile of bricks. There was some construction going on, and one of them slipped a brick under his shirt. And when they got back to the shore, put the brick in my bag. And all afternoon, the kids were asking me, "How you feeling, Bill? Are you able to keep up? Et cetera, et cetera." And I didn't know what the hell was going on till we got to the end of the day, and I unpacked my bag and found this doggone brick, and it was in my bag, and that's why the kids were doing what they were doing. And I blamed it on Owen. Having put that in my bag. Well, when we went to dinner, he made the kids fess up. So after that, the Cape May brick started being taken as part of the ride each year, and I would award it to somebody. Somebody did something dumb. They missed a turn. They who knew what kind of dumb things people do as they ride, and that was enough to get awarded the brick. And then as time went on, and people didn't want to carry the brick, and so it's now a what I refer to as the Spirit of the Cape May Ride, and it's given to the rider each year for a year, who I think represents the spirit of the Cape May Ride, which is fun, good time, sociability, some leadership, that kind of stuff. And actually, I looked for the brick as we were getting ready for this talk. I don't know where it is. Maybe the last person I gave it to never gave it back.
Dick, we're going to roll into the next one. We're going to roll right into the Dave and Ross segment of this meeting, and they're going to be talking about chain cleaning and bike maintenance. Right up your alley, right?
Yep. Clean mine today with kerosene. Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
You got dead air, Scott.
I realize that. Okay, hold on.
Chain cleaning is an essential part of bike maintenance. It extends the life of your whole drivetrain and can greatly improve shifting and overall drivetrain function. We'll walk you through each step for cleaning and lubing a chain in this repair help video. Hi, I'm Ben with Park Tool. The first tip in getting a clean chain is to use a degreaser. Bicycle-specific degreaser is formulated to cut through the thick buildup of grime and oil usually found on most bicycle chains. Second tip, use a chain cleaner, such as the CM 5.2 or the CM 25 I have here. You certainly don't have to use a chain cleaning device, but cleaning your bike's drivetrain can be a messy process that involves a lot of prep and a lot of work. Tools like the CM 25 and CM 5.2 significantly streamline the work, and they do a better job as well. In addition to the chain cleaner and solvent, you'll need rags, soap and water, apron and rubber gloves. If you're inside, protect the surface you're working on. If you're outside, consider spraying water on the concrete to make grease and contaminants easier to clean up later. We've already checked our chain to make sure it's not worn out. See this other video for that process. Put the bike in a repair stand. Rotate the bike so the lower section of the chain is level. Shift to the smallest cog in the front and rear. If you have a dummy hub, remove the wheel and install the dummy hub. A dummy hub is recommended but not required. It will add chain slack and keep the loosened contaminants away from the wheel and components. Attach the chain cleaner to the lower section of chain. Make sure the chain fully seats into the brushes. Fill with solvent to the fill line. Slowly pedal backwards. Pedal at least 30 revolutions. Remove the chain cleaner and empty the solvent into a container. Once the contaminants have settled, the solvent on top can be reused. Check with local authorities for disposal. Rinse out the chain cleaner and refill with soapy water. Repeat the process of installing the chain cleaner and running the chain through until the chain is thoroughly rinsed. While you're cleaning the chain, it's a good idea to also clean other components of the drivetrain. Wipe off the chain by running it through a clean, dry rag. And leave the chain to air dry or blow it off with a compressor. Once the chain is dry, it's important to lubricate the chain. Use chain lube such as CL1 and add a drop of lube to each individual rivet. Next, take a clean, dry rag, backpedal to wipe off any excess lube. This will prevent dirt from collecting on your drivetrain. Remove the dummy hub and reinstall the wheel. Your chain is now clean and ready to ride. If it's true that a clean bike is a happy bike, then our example bike would be utterly despondent by how dirty its chain is. So it's a good rule to clean your bicycle's chain thoroughly around once a month if you're riding regularly.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody.
I guess we're on.
Hey guys, I just want to let you know that Howard Ross has a question here. And I think this is in response to a lot of the conversation lately about using kerosene. So you want to address this kerosene? Go ahead.
Well, it'll come up in what I have to say.
That's right.
We're going to cover basic bicycle maintenance, but the first and the most important one is chain maintenance and cleaning. The video is very good. I will make a couple comments on it, though. That chain was absolutely filthy, and he ran it through cleaner and rinse once, and it came out like brand new. That will never happen. The grease that gets on chains is the stickiest, messiest stuff I've ever worked with, and I've worked on cars for 40 years. They get greasy, but bicycle chain grease is a different beast, partly because of the different lubricants. Some of it has wax in it, some doesn't, some's dry, some's wet, and then you get a mix of this really fine dust that comes off of the road and is attracted to the chain by the lubricant. So it just becomes a sticky mess. There's two ways to clean the chain. One is, as shown in that video, on the bike, and probably that's the most convenient way for most people to do it. The other way is to take the chain off of the bicycle, but that requires a chain tool such as this that you might carry with you, or a bigger professional shop grade one. But then you have to pull the pin out of the, break the link on the chain to take it off. Then what you can do is stick it in a container like this, add your cleaning fluid, shake it up, and let it soak. That's a good thing to do if you like taking your chain off. Some people do that once a year. I kind of recommend you do it every month. And in conditions where you've been riding in rain, you should at least wipe your chain off when you get home to get that water off of it, and then oil it. And then when you get a chance, you should actually clean it and re-oil it. So on the bike, you want to use either a bike cleaner such as the Park Tool. I use stuff like Grease Lightning. There's a DEP degreaser. I know Dick Norford uses kerosene in one of these plastic chain cleaners that Park Tool has. If you want to use kerosene, I would do it if you take the chain off. He does it on. But gasoline, kerosene, mineral spirits, they're all great solvents, but they're a lot more hazardous than just regular degreasers that you can get. Most of that stuff is biodegradable, and you can use it and separate it, and it's a lot easier to work with and get rid of. It's not as harsh on your hands and your skin. But after you do that cleaning, as they showed in that video, and we do in the clinic, we almost always do them on the bike. It's faster, and we don't run the risk of damaging a chain or when pushing the pin out and back in again. The rule of thumb is when you take the pin out to separate a chain, you really should put a new pin back in. But the other thing that I really like and is popular now are these things called quick links. So this is a quick link for a 6, 7, and 8 speed. This is one for a 9 speed. Here's a 10 speed. Here's an 11, and there's a 12. So you have to know how many speeds you have on the rear cassette, because it makes a difference in the width of the chain, not the spacing on the rollers, but it's more on the width. And that's because they're putting more gears on the cassette, and the cassette can only be so wide. So these things are great for if you want to take your chain off, you put one of these in and you can pull these apart. Most of them can be used more than once. So you can get a special tool, you take that quick link off, pull the chain off, and clean it in a container where you can soak it, shake it up, and then rinse it off.
Dave,
yes.
a quick link's a great thing to buy right now, because if they put it in their bike bag, it's there for an emergency repair throughout the rest of the year. Then when they go to clean, they have it.
Yep. And I usually carry some of these in my stuff because, you know, if anybody on a ride twists a chain, and that's happened 3 or 4 times when I've been on one, I sometimes have had the right one with me, and we're able to fix the chain. If it falls apart, gets twisted, we can take the bad link out, just put a quick link in and get going. Because sometimes when that happens to a chain, there's no saving it. You're stuck. So these things are twofold. They're one for making it easier for maintenance, and they're also great if you're out on the road and have a problem. So once you get it clean, and you should also pay attention to your sprockets on the front chain rings and the rear cassette. I have a variety of, and when you're doing the cleaning, one thing you should also do is check for chain wear. Here's one that Park makes. Here's another one that actually moves to give you a reading. Here's one made by Petros. And this is another Park Tool unit. And then there's this other contraption here. That's a Pro Gold. That one doesn't seem to get good reviews on the websites, but I got one anyway just to check them to show you what you need to do. But they will allow you to check your chain for what's called, we all call stretch, but it's actually wearing of the pin, the rivet pin and the roller. That's where the dirt gets, and it wears that stuff down, and then the spacings get larger. So the chain isn't really stretching, it's actually just wearing out. But when you lay them down beside each other, it looks like it's longer, and in effect it kind of is. But they call that, we call it stretch, but the pivots are actually wearing out. So anyway, when you're done with all that and you've cleaned your sprockets and your chains and you dry it, and then you take lubricants, and there's a variety of different lubricants. I have 2 here. I have other ones. This is Finish Line. It's a dry lubricant. This is Tri-Flow. A lot of people like this. This is a spray can, but it also comes in a bottle like this. And that stuff you put on one link at a time, or some people will backpedal the chain and just kind of drizzle it out across the chain and get all the links. You want to get all the links wet. It helps disperse the water from when you cleaned it and gets the oil in there, and you need it inside. It also helps flush out some of the dirt that you may not have gotten with the other process. But it's really important to get oil on there so it doesn't rust inside. Check the chain wear. Oh, and one thing on the chains from 5-speed up to about 11-speed, you're looking for about 1% wear, and different tools will have values on it. This one has 1 and 0.75, but once it gets over about 0.75 to 1%, it's time to replace your chain, except for the 11s and the 12s. When they get to 0.5% or a little worse, you should replace it then. And what happens is when the chain wears that far, what it does is it causes the notches in the cassette and the chain ring to elongate. And when that elongates and the chain's worn, it starts to jump. And then you have a real mess. And basically at that point, you have to replace your cassette, maybe your chain ring and the chain, and that gets really expensive. So you want to keep an eye on that kind of stuff. Anything else on chains, Ross, that I might have missed?
Well, backing up on the chains a little bit, you said about uneven chain stretch. At Recycle Bicycle, well, you didn't say uneven, I did. Most times your chain will stretch evenly the whole way around. More so in kids' bikes, they get left out in the rain. The chain guard protects half the chain, not the other half. The rain washes out the oil, and half the chain will stretch. So if you got a neighborhood kid and you're helping with his bike and you can't figure out why the chain is long and then short, long, then short, it's got uneven chain stretch because of, and they say they can't hear me. My microphone is on. So
I hear you.
So uneven chain stretch is something you'll usually see on a kid's bike. So that way you'll be knowledgeable about it. Then also, Mr. Wonderful likes kerosene. I'm wondering if the EPA is going to hunt him down and find out where he's disposing it, because anything that's not really biodegradable, and I see Marilyn says she can't, or yeah, Marilyn can hear me, so I'm there. Wonder where Mr. Wonderful is getting rid of his kerosene. But to reiterate, do not use gasoline. I worked at a hospital, and this goes back into the early 70s. Some guy was cleaning out a garage bay at a gas station with gasoline. His buddy walked in after hours and said, "What are you doing?" First guy turned around and said, "Put out the cigarette." And that was the end of it. So anything that's really flammable, or the EPA doesn't like you to dispose of dirty oil or dirty gas, not a good idea. So use the biodegradables. The quick link, as Dave says, really work well. Then go out to your local favorite bike shop now and get a quick link and put it in your bike bag. That way, if you're on a ride and it happens and you turn to the Dave on the ride and he says, "I didn't have the exact size for it," it's just like your inner tubes. You carry the right inner tube for your bike, carry the right quick link for your bike.
Yeah, and these things aren't expensive. The ones I have, I got a pedal pusher, and they run from $6 to $10.
Yep.
So they're and some of them include 2 of them for that price. So they're not terribly expensive.
And then always lube and clean and lubricate your chain. Too many times, and I'll pick on guys like me, they get a bike and they're told by the local bike shop, bring it back in 6 weeks for the tune-up. So what happens is they go out and they ride their bike to the mud, the blood, and the beer, and it doesn't shift right. So being a guy, they get out their screwdriver and they adjust everything they see on the derailleur, front and rear, and it doesn't solve its problems. So they go to their local bike shop and say, "It's not shifting right." And they tell them, "Give me money to clean and lubricate your chain, and then they say, give me more money to readjust everything you unadjusted. And so my original mountain bike was that way. If it didn't shift right, do not pick up the screwdriver. It's time to clean and lubricate your chain.
One other method that can be used, some of the bike shops use Safety Clean. It's an industrial type of cleaning machine that uses a very high level or high grade of mineral spirits. Gas stations use it. I happen to have one, pedal pusher, and I think some of the other bike shops have them, but you have to take the chain off the bike to use that. Another thing you could use, which is even rarer, would be an ultrasonic cleaner. Again, you have to take it off the bike, and it takes a long time. Those things might take a half an hour to actually get them really clean. But again, like I said, this goo that we get on our chains is nasty stuff. Aside from that, you want to take your wheels off for general maintenance, clean your cassette, especially the jockey wheels. As a matter of fact, on Monday, we had an interesting old bike the guy was trying to get the shifting working, and it's the first time I've ever seen it, but the upper jockey wheel was actually almost not existent. It was, all the teeth were worn off of it. So the chain kept jumping all over the place because there was nothing there to keep it lined up. It's the first I ever saw that. Probably because the train was dry, it was way out of adjustment, and it just wore that jockey wheel out. But there are some other good park videos on washing your bike. You take your wheels off, you want to clean them. You want to use some good hot water, soapy water, and then clear water. You don't want to use a high pressure sprayer. You can use your garden hose. You can use a bottle and just drip it over the bike to rinse it. You can use if you use a garden hose, just put it on like a mist or fine spray to wash it off. So what you're trying to do is avoid getting water into the bearings on the wheels and the bottom bracket. Because once it gets in there, it gets trapped, it washes the grease out, and you'll have trouble later on. You want to check your brakes. Always check your brakes. It's one of Ross's and all of ours. Make sure our brakes work. You want to clean them and check them. Make sure they're lubricated on the pivots and they're all working good. And keep track of the cables and make sure they're free. And wash it and then dry it. And if you've done that as part of your chain, you want to re-lube that too. So biggest thing for all of us is if we do those simple maintenance things, the bikes will stay running for us, last longer, and we'll have less trouble.
That's right. And oil, your bike loves to have oil put into it.
Yep. And again, if you ride in the rain or your bike has been on your car when you traveled back from a ride during the rain, wipe it off as soon as you can and get the water off of it, especially off of the chain, because that will rust and you want to get that garbage off of there. There was a ride we did in New York a bunch of years ago, and we rode in the rain for like 20 miles. And we were staying at a hotel, and Larry and I were rooming, and we put our bike in the bathtub and washed it. And oh my God, it took us twice as long to clean the bathtub out with that grease. But what you get is this slimy gray colored crud all over the wheels and tires. And you want to get all that stuff off of there and off the chain and re-lube it. So just keep an eye on that stuff.
And if you ride in the wintertime, road salt will do a number on your chain. So you want to lubricate and clean twice as often.
Okay, that's all we got. Have any questions? Just send us something. We'll answer them if we can. Thanks, Ross.
Glenn, we have no sound from your end. Did you mute your microphone?
Yeah, I did. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I just want to apologize to everybody for some of the technical difficulties. Of course, this is not a professional production agency. So, but I appreciate everybody hanging in there with us. And I wish everybody a good evening, good health, and safe riding. Thank you.